I like both. It was down. Turn on forward a little bit. It's always nice breeze. So that definitely, urban areas kind of get swallowed down the streets. Yeah. We did. Oh, yeah, like half a dozen tourist things.
Hey, Bill? It was, you want to be the resolution reader today?
They do, Jeff, well, they.
Jeff was gonna handle the site and stuff, because he was at the site.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay, sure.
Yeah, Jeff can handle the site visits.
So then I'll just say, whoever's got it, read it.
He can handle the whole Joey Grill if he wants.
No, come on. We sure.
Do you have a card there, you know? Yes.
I usually print it out, but I say, why print it out, but I always end up with
Yesterday when I sat down, I was like, 3 open seats.
That's when you're like, look down every Saturday. Oh, Saturday.
Yeah, Richard was just right to us.
That should be on our side.
Yeah, no, on Saturday.
Well, you're not gonna be.
Oh, no, I'm sorry for that. I'm sorry for that. Oh, yeah,
That's a great.
Yeah.
We don't know. I know it was. In the middle of 6, we got Bill, Jeff, Tom, Jeff, Kathy, Chairman, and Aaron. I don't know if the months will come in, but I know just on so at this point, I think we're missing. Good morning, Chris. What we do? I'm glad you were thinking about it. I wasn't.
Okay. I guess we're getting close to time. And we're all here. Good morning, everybody. It is Tuesday, February 24th, 2026, 10 a.m. We're at the Holiday Inn Resort in downtown Lake George. And first is welcome and introduction. And we don't often have anybody to introduce, but Carla has brought a friend of the office as assigned to watch her.
They're a little worried about me.
Our commission meeting. So would you introduce?
Absolutely. Sitting next to me is our newest attorney, is Jordan Conway. Jordan is a Lake George girl, so she's very excited to be here. I hope she's excited to be here. I kind of told her she was coming. Just to get to know everybody here, to get to know the commission, and because she's a Lake George person and worked at the LGLC for a while, and now she's our attorney, and we're very excited that she's here. So please be nice. No bad comments, okay, because I want her to come back.
Who are you pointing to?
In general.
I hear nothing, see nothing, tell nothing. Welcome, and glad you're here.
Thank you, appreciate it.
We try not to take ourselves too off the serious.
I love it. I love some good things.
Okay. How about we do item 2, the approval of meeting minutes and fiscal actions report. A is approval of the meeting minutes of January 2026.
Make a motion.
Motion's been made and seconded. Any discussion? All in favor? Carried. Item B is approval of fiscal actions report for January 2026. So moved.
Second?
Wait a second. Okay, right.
I did.
You did it, I'm sorry. Okay, no discussion, all in favor? Carried. Project review actions report. Mr. Stanek is having some surgical issues today. So we're gonna miss him. But Randy, who would be there to review project actions reports? Oops. You, Jack?
Yes.
Okay.
So is it open? Okay. All righty. Just do the resolution.
You just read it and then you'll come to the legal words at the end. This is
I have it right
baptism by fire.
Okay, so this is resolution 2026-06. Whereas the commission has received and reviewed the project review actions report prepared by staff dated February 18, 26. And whereas the project review committee recommends acceptance of the project review actions report. Therefore, be resolved and the commission directs that the project review actions report be incorporated in the minutes of the full commission meeting. Motion to.
So moved.
Second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Carried, thank you. I forgot to tell you, last week, I have told all of you by phone, hope I didn't miss anybody. Mr. Tulin was released from review by our team in Albany, and he is now definitely on the road to the title of full director, which we're thrilled to death about it. They still have some hoops that they have personally installed and want to jump through, and I said, fine, do whatever you want, we're gonna do what we want to do. And so, Joe, you got the job for the rest of your life, as far as I'm concerned. At least the rest of my life.
Sounds a little scary, doesn't it?
Penalty.
Great, thank you. Yeah, happy to hear that news. Sounds, it's not official yet, there's still some classes to do. But happy to continue to expand my responsibilities and help the commission further, its intent and mission to the best of my ability. We got a wonderful staff, great board, so really just an honor and a privilege to be able to work with the commission.
That's great. We're glad. Now, having said that, how about you introducing our item 4, which is a presentation from the Warren County Planning and GIS Environmental Partnerships. And Mr. David Nelson is here, but Joe.
Yeah, I'd love to, yeah. So we're happy to have Dave here. Warren County Planning Department has been a tremendous resource and partner to the commission through the years. Annually, they give us updated parcel data for our GIS mapping. And they also created a mapping service for us where we can find and locate abutters to projects. They created and maintained our original milfoil dashboard, which tracks in real time the milfoil that happens, milfoil work that's occurred, and also the storage. And of course, they're administering state grant funding for septic replacement, which is a tremendous resource to folks who are trying to comply with our septic inspection. So they're doing great work. We're happy to have David here to talk about all the good activities they're engaged in. That'll hand it over.
Is there a slide presentation with this?
Yes, there is.
Save my eyes. Yeah, attack you with the lights.
Thank you, Joe, for that introduction. Yes, I'm David Nelson, Principal Planner with Warren County. I've been with the county for almost 2 years now. I am standing in for Ethan and Sarah today. They have a committee meeting. We're also simultaneously doing a planning and zoning training this morning, so we're very busy. As I hope this presentation will show you, we have our fingerprints kind of in a lot of different areas of the county, a lot of different initiatives in the county. So one of them, as Joe pointed out, is collaborating with the Lake George Park Commission, and hopefully we'll be able to continue that partnership. So the planning and community development role, we are not a regulatory body. We are pretty much an advisory body. But like I said, we do a lot of different things. We help to establish planning and policy foundation on the county level. We also assist municipalities in doing so. We support other county departments, particularly through GIS, mapping and spatial analysis. A big part of what we do is work on grant applications. We try to make ourselves available to everyone in the community, so that's, again, municipalities, other county departments, nonprofit organizations, other agencies. And then another big thing is technical assistance and training to municipalities. As I mentioned, we have a planning and zoning group this morning. It's actually not a training, it's just our group, but we do trainings on a regular basis. We bring all our communities together. Each planning and zoning board, if you're not familiar, they need 4 hours of training each year. That's a state mandate, and so we try to provide them with those opportunities. We also provide land use regulation assistance to communities. So again, we don't have any authority, but we do provide our expertise in helping them develop smart, sustainable zoning codes. One of the hot button topics lately has been short-term rentals. So we've helped a number of communities flesh out their regulations on short-term rentals. I'm sure everyone has heard that for the first time, the county has a county-wide comprehensive plan. It's called Warren County 2040. It's our long-range planning document, and it identifies shared county goals and priorities. So this was us bringing all the departments together, looking at what services we provide, how we can be more efficient, how we can respond to some of the newer trends and challenges that we're facing. Such as the aging population, the housing shortage. I guess kind of the underlying theme of Warren County 2040 is that economic vitality and environmental quality together, considering them both, balancing them both, will result in sustainable, resilient, strong communities. As I said, I think we're all aware of our housing shortage. There's also aging infrastructure that we need to respond to. And another theme that really drives our department, because we kind of see us as filling the gap, is outdoor recreation economy and tourism. That makes up 33% of our economy in the county. So it's a big ticket item, and it's something that we see as each municipality, a lot of the agencies have a shared interest in it. And so if we can bring them all together, there's strength in numbers. As I said, grant funding is a big part of what we do. It's a strength that we've developed in the past couple of years. We had more than $3 million awarded in 2025. And dozens of projects over the past 2 years. We've touched on everything from infrastructure to housing, water quality, recreation, and community development. So turning planning, which can be kind of an academic exercise, into actual investment, we see planning as kind of a springboard for affecting positive change in our communities, if we're successful at it. And if we are, we're able to reduce local tax burden. We we can build more resilient and proactive economies that aren't responding to shifts in economic activity, but are actually staying out in front. Of course, improved quality of life. The Lake George region has some world-class assets that give us really a strategic advantage over other regions. So we want to lean into that, continue to invest in what makes Lake George so special. Makes people like me want to move here and raise a family. And then strengthen municipal capacity. We deal with a lot of small towns that have limited resources. So our assistance empowers them to make decisions that they may not be able to fully invest in otherwise. So some of our focal points. Community planning and development. We've been, like I said, recognizing the housing shortage, so we have formed a housing strategy and task force designed at really exploring what are the issues, what are kind of the barriers to providing the housing that we need. So we're looking at issues of affordability, also issues of choices, the limited variety of housing. We're looking at areas that are struggling with housing, and some of our smaller towns. I'm going to skip down to thriving hamlets, the third bullet point. This is designed to address the housing shortage. So the Thriving Hamlets project is it's a grant-funded opportunity initiative to look at our hamlets. So 95% of our county is within the blue line. So development is very much restricted in most of our communities, and it's restricted really to the hamlet areas where there is no density limitation. So we're looking at our hamlet areas and seeing what is the capacity to build out, to kind of fill in some of those gaps, and what will that look like? How will that impact kind of the community fabric? And is that something that certain hamlets, certain municipalities want to pursue? We want to give them kind of the breadth of options for building out their hamlets. So this project involves a lot of spatial analysis. It involves the purchase of GIS software that really allows us to show in kind of a 3D model what it might look like and what that capacity is. So that's a very exciting project that we're undertaking right now. Railway feasibility study, to go back. We have almost 40 miles of rail line along the Hudson. The county owns it, and it has become somewhat of a liability due to the continued infrastructure and repair costs involved with it. So long term, we wanted to figure out how can we use this asset, because we do see it as an asset, in the most economically productive way, and in a way that brings in tourism and continues to advance us as a world-class location. The opportunity area inventory, that's another DOS program, DOS funded program. If you guys have heard of the Brownfield opportunity area that Glens Falls, Queensbury have been working on, we're calling it the opportunity area inventory to kind of put a positive spin on it. But it's the same thing. This is the first step in what Queensbury and Glens Falls has done. And the first step is to get an inventory of either contaminated or perceived blighted sites throughout our county. Identify them first. The next phase would be to develop a plan of how we can reinvest in those properties. As I mentioned, the outdoor recreation economy is a big part of what we do. We really do see it as an economic driver. We have a number of projects underway, and they all kind of are coming out of the strategic plan, which we completed last year. It's really focused on 4-season recreation opportunities, It's focused on inclusivity, sustainability, and really being supportive of our small town economies. A good example is North Creek. They have Gore, huge economic driver, but North Creek's Main Street itself has struggled to really tap into that investment in Gore. So we're looking for ways to kind of complement what Gore and Orta are doing and strengthen North Creek as well. Up beyond the farm, we're working on a master plan to guide environmental stewardship and programming. Their last one was completed 32 years ago. It was when the property was deeded to the county. So it's definitely time to take another look at that. The Warren County Fish Hatchery, we're one of 3 county-managed fish hatcheries in the state. Used to be that counties managed all the fish hatcheries, but a lot of those have fallen to the wayside. We are at a strategic advantage in that we have a great source of fresh water, spring fed water at the site. And we also have been assisting DEC in trout stocking throughout the Adirondacks. And we also do a lot of stocking local, I think more than 25 sites, including many, of course, in the Lake George watershed. So we want to continue to invest in that. We recently received a grant to redo the 3 ponds that provide our stocking resource. They're more than 100 years old. And then we are always looking to improve water resource access, because that's just a great asset that we have. We're looking at developing a Mill Creek recreation area trail system. We received a grant from the local waterfront revitalization program last year in the amount of about $350,000. Spring River access site improvements, we've identified 2 and funded them to the tune of about $500,000. And then North Creek's mountain to river linkages. So again, looking at what Gore is doing, the strength of Ski Bowl Park up there, and making that connection to the downtown and to the Hudson River. Protecting our lakes and our environment in general is another big focal point of ours. As Joe mentioned, we've been working on the septic system replacement program, awarded $400,000 in 2024. That resulted in 16 failing systems, either replaced or repaired in 2025. We continue to solicit participation in that program. We have done a county-wide assessment of culverts. This was, again, a recent award through the Climate Smart Communities Program. So that's to identify the condition of all the county-owned and municipal-owned culverts, so that we can start to prioritize replacement and repairs as necessary. I'm going to skip down to that 4th kind of yellowish, orangish bullet point of culvert replacements under stormwater management. So again, assessing the culverts allows us to prioritize. We have been funded to replace a culvert on Bay Road. I'm sure a lot of people are familiar with the culvert replacement that has happened on Corinth Road. Both of those were funded recently. Other stormwater management funding that we've received is county plow retrofits and brine making and spreading equipment investments. HEG has done a lot, and salt storage shed replacement, and in water body controls for nutrient planting. So those 4 bullet points together, we were awarded more than $1 million in 2025. We also do a lot of hazard mitigation planning. We partner with the Soil Water Conservation District on that. In fact, one of our upcoming trainings, we'll take a look at that hazard mitigation plan. We invite anyone from the commission to attend, if interested, and, we help and assist with, milfoil, harvesting as well. I think, a lot of you have probably already identified ways in which we have, shared goals and visions with, the park commission. And we look forward to continuing to align early and often. Again, septic system planning and replacement, stormwater and culvert work, lake access design and resilience. So we recognize that lakefront development is a big issue in the region. And as I mentioned, we have no land use regulatory authority, but we do like to assist our communities in identifying ways in which they can codify good design, sustainable design, design that protects our natural resources. Invasive species management coordination. We've done a lot with that, particularly on Spring Lake. We'd like to continue that. Additional, municipal technical assistance. As I mentioned, we're always open to that if a community wants our help. And then GIS data sharing, but also spatial analysis. We've done a lot. Sarah Frankenfeld has been a great force to help our communities, help our agencies in expanding their capabilities. And then finally, looking ahead, we're going to continue to implement our adopted plans, the 2040 plan, also our community plans, our outdoor recreation economy plan, and pursue grants. As I mentioned, we recognize that infrastructure pressures are mounting, a lot of aging infrastructure, sewer, water, bridges, all that needs investment, precise strategic investment. We need to respond to our aging population and provide services for them, but also recognize that we need to figure out how to bring younger families into the region. A big part of that is healthy economy. Continue watershed protection in the face of development, climate change, and also policy change. And then the recognition of needing to coordinate across agencies and levels. Like I said, we do a lot for our municipal level. We have our eye on county level as well, but also acknowledging state policies, state mandates, and working with those agencies. We really see collaboration as a big part of what we do. We're kind of the linkage between to bring together different groups that have shared interests and values. So if anyone has any questions, I'm happy to answer them.
I just have a question. I think that's amazing. You were able to give out over $400,000 to repair the septic systems. Were most of them on Lake George, and do you think was a result of the initiative that was passed?
I can't speak to all the locations. I believe most of them were on Lake George, and yes, I do think there
And
was.
the max is 10,000 that you could.
I believe so.
Yeah,
Yes.
so, wow, we reached a lot of people. That's amazing. Do you think, is that same number, that same dollar amount available in the future?
It will vary, but I think showing success in this program will open the doors for us to get second amounts, absolutely.
And we've been reaching the people to let them be aware that these funds do exist. I think that, to me, I think that was the initial
The barrier,
the
yeah.
barrier, yeah.
Yes, the lack of knowledge.
And then once people realized that, it really took off.
Yes.
Thanks, yeah,
Agreed.
it's great.
Dave, one of the things we're interested internally is looking at the culverts and, climate resiliency and making sure, as we're replacing culverts that, they're not just replaced in kind, but, we're looking at current peak storms, potentially future peak storms. Is that something, when you guys are assessing the culverts, is it structural integrity, or do you guys also look at the sizing of those culverts, and how does that work?
Absolutely, we're looking at really kind of every component of the culvert to see how it functions, how it has functioned in the past, what the needs are for the kind of the catchment area, and really understanding what is needed there ideally. And that's what we're going to pursue, knowing how expensive these replacements are and how expensive these repairs are, right? When we have these storms that work.
Yeah, and it's not just a public safety thing, but it's an environmental thing. Right?
Absolutely.
Everyone's washing downstream.
Was the Corinth Road up by the water treatment plant?
Yes.
That's right, I missed it. Yeah, awesome.
Dave, going back to the culverts, did you say you're also assessing countywide culverts, town and county, or just county only?
That's correct. We're doing an inventory on both.
Okay.
Excellent. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Now we know about scope planning. We thought there was one guy up there that answered the telephone. Thank you very much. Now we'll go backwards in the agenda, because I failed to say, magic words of, we do have a quorum this morning, for the record.
She had,
Yes.
Okay. Okay. Item 5. Modification variance, town A. Are you on those, or who's the?
Alright, let me go ahead and give you a brief background here. So, the applicant here is Mr. Oliver, his official name is the 12FPDN LLC. He's here representing the project. The applicant actually applied for a permit last year. It was granted that permit using a previous survey that was available when he purchased the property. Since he was within 5 feet of the setback area on either side, we requested that survey be done to stake the dock in prior to it being installed. During that process, it was realized that the dock was going to be over the setback as it was permitted, I guess. So with that, the applicant, Mr. Oliver, reached out and said, hey, this is going to be over the setback. What do I need to do? I said, okay, well, we need to go for a variance. In some of our previous communications, he had mentioned that he was eventually going to have a boathouse. And I suggested that he apply for both at this time, so he only has to come in front of the board one time. The applicant then went out on the ice and kind of outlaid his dock, which is in your packet, showing that the pink ribbon. At that time, he realized, hey, I want to kind of have these inside triangles. I forgot to add those to the design. So he sent an updated design, which then also changed one of the pier widths from 6 feet to 8 feet. So that's another option. So we have in front of you today 3 different options. One dock is a 24-foot wide with 2 6-foot piers, and then the other 2 are 26 feet wide with 8-foot piers. And the third option, this is very confusing, I apologize, is actually as the 8-foot wide pier, but it's set back a foot to kind of bring a little bit more out of the setback area. So with that, that's the background on the project. The variance is, again, for being within a 20-foot setback area. And with that, I will ask Mr. Oliver to come up and fill any holes that I may have missed. And we'll go from there.
Morning. Randy, thanks for helping me through this process. We actually started talking because I originally was going to submit a mooring variance, but was talking to Lieutenant Johns, and that's kind of what led to the dock variance. So no, I think you described it accurately. I think really from my perspective, what I'm asking you to look at is to consider the mean bisector instead of the property line. And I think one thing that Randy didn't mention is that I own this property with my wife, and the property to the south, which it would be into the 20-foot setback, I'm also an owner of that property with my parents and my sibling. So I technically could go through the legal process of changing the property lines, but thought it would be more reasonable to come in front of this board to ask to consider to use the meeting bisector.
Randy, you talked about options. Are we deciding on one of three options?
Yeah, essentially, there's all three options were kind of presented. We were kind of working back and forth of what was discussed when we sat down and kind of went over this with a few of the board members that came in for our site visit, which was virtual due to the weather and the fact that, walking through a few hundred yards of snow at both sites would have been difficult. Yeah, we just kind of went over the different options because we weren't sure which was best for the applicant.
It would seem that maybe, do we have a party that was there?
We were there, me,
Yeah.
Jeff,
And
Tom,
okay.
and Joe. No, Joe.
No, here Joe's on, yeah,
He's
just
not
here.
here.
Joe's out and
I came in the day before, Mr. Chairman, because I couldn't be around, and I had a long talk with Randy. I think I saw everything. I wasn't privy to the discussion
You're
that the commissioners.
I'm just curious, for the sake of conversation and decisions, which of the, I don't think I've ever come across the choices before like this. Which of the options do the folks who are on the scene suggest we rank 1, 2, or 3? Which I would presume will be up the.
Which of the options would the applicant prefer? I'm not clear. There's so many options.
left it kind of thrown back to.
And maybe you could summarize what our discussion was and where it was left with the applicant when you discussed with them afterward.
Well, and can I just say this, I just did not realize that you own the property to the south with your family.
Correct.
Which was part of our discussion.
Did I miss that? the other day?
No, but we didn't know who owned it, we
Oh,
discussed
okay,
a
because I
lot
was like,
like
how
this.
did I miss that? I mean, to me, that's a little bit of a change to the original.
So why don't we find from the applicant which
Song,
Yeah.
would like the most,
Does
and go from there.
Well, you know,
Ask Carla, does the, that property with his share of the common ownership, how does that get reviewed?
He doesn't own the complete, in what capacity do you own it?
It's owned by an LLC.
No, so the property we're talking about now is owned by an LLC.
Your neighboring property.
Both properties.
So you don't own them with your parents, they are all in common ownership,
Okay,
Two different houses.
two different LLCs.
correct.
Okay.
Okay, so then they're two different parties, it doesn't matter.
And historically, we've always treated, even when it's the same owner, if
Yeah.
it's two separate parcels, we treat them as if we're two separate parcels and separate.
but the property we're talking about, you're the sole owner of the LLC.
No, with my wife.
Well, yes,
Yeah, but that's irrelevant because the LLC itself is the property owner, isn't that?
exactly,
Right.
I understand.
But which of these three choices that is being suggested would you like us to focus on?
The most recent one. So it has a 6-foot finger, an 8-foot finger, and then the connector of the fingers I've made smaller so that it stays within the 700 square feet.
That's the option 2.
Option 2.
And that complies with,
What page is that?
It is page 48. Option 2.
in that choice complies with all of our needs.
Well, the problem with that one is the triangle, at the end of the dock is in the setback.
Right.
At
20
the
feet
end of the south dock.
of the neighboring property, that the applicant has an interest in the ownership of the neighboring property.
It's in the setback, but the way I look at it, that I even without him owning the property, if the neighbor to the south wasn't objecting to this, the angle of that property line makes it very difficult to build a dock there. I would be looking at the perpendicular from the shoreline as my guidepost is what's reasonable. And if you do that, there's nothing to talk about. It's only in the setback because of that sharp angle. And he could, as he points out in his narrative, he could adjust the property line. He could go through the process of transferring a small triangular portion of land and change that property line so that it went straight out into the lake. And it would be so reasonable to all of us, I would think. It would be reasonable to this commission. So.
That's the way our discussion on Friday was.
Yeah.
Yes.
I wasn't there for the virtual site visits, but I think there was some discussion about the 6 foot wide pier versus the 8 foot wide pier.
Yes.
In this case, I understand, recently purchased the property and basically inherited a 24 foot wide U-shaped dock, with a pier 24 feet apart. Applied for and received in 2025 a permit where the width of the dock was 24 feet wide and further offshore. And then just most recently said, instead of 2 6-foot piers and a 12 foot wide slip, I want one pier to be 8 foot wide so as to maximize the split footage. So I think when we're looking at this, I don't think there's any question that being able to replace a 24 foot wide U-shaped dock, especially after the permanent one, it seems reasonable, but I think the focus should be on, and I thought was on, doesn't make sense. Do we need an 8 foot wide pier to facilitate berth there? Or is a 6 foot wide pier okay? Because an 8 foot exacerbates the non-conformity in the setback. So just sort of big picture, I think that's sort of the key thing to focus on is whether or not an 8 foot width.
I think our discussion on Friday, correct me if I'm wrong, but we suggested that either the 8 foot would be reduced back to 6, because there wasn't adequate justification for the 8 feet, or a lot line adjustment could be made to support, I think, the 8 foot depth.
Right, and Tom seemed to think that the burden, the expense of doing that, the figure we were told, Tom seemed to think it would be, if you could do it for half that, you just, a surveyor to come in there and just readjust that to make it perpendicular out and keep the 8 foot that you wanted.
Well, you have to change the deeds as well.
Yes, yeah, but Tom seemed to think that that was just a matter of just going down to the office and.
Could be wrong, but I think it could be done more efficiently.
I mean, I got pricing from, I guess it's James and Steve's as the surveyor who's already been out there once, because now they have to survey the other property, the Rockwood LLC owns. And then also from Stephanie there, who is the real estate attorney that I used to change the deeds. And I guess going for a headache or whatever needs to be done to it.
Unfortunately, our charge is to grant the least variance necessary. So I think the 8 foot has not been justified to our board, or at least to our subcommittee adequately. So we feel that either the 8 foot would need to be reduced to 6 feet or do the lot line adjustment.
Would it make sense to you to move the dock more towards the shore in exchange for the 8 foot pier? Because that's honestly where this came up from. Because Randy and I were going back and forth, and he said that the board may be amenable to moving the entire dock closer to shore, because then it comes out of the setback, 20-foot setback. And my suggestion was, hey, well, I would consider moving it closer to shore, maybe if we could add some width to the dock finger, and take some of the surface area from the connection of the dock and put it on the finger.
I'm not sure I'm looking at the correct diagram, but it doesn't look like moving a foot toward the shore gives you out the variance.
I had mentioned at the meeting that I thought the final plan had moved it closer to the 8 feet that you have it out. And then I think Randy mentioned something about the Nemo watermark, that maybe we couldn't move it in as closer to shore as much as I thought we were going to be able to do it. Well, 1 foot's not gonna do it, you're gonna need to move it 3 feet.
No, we wouldn't move it out still. He mentioned square foot, or surface area, or square footage. So basically, you're reducing the square footage that would be in the
Of course, we're still there.
So, yeah, so we did talk about that, and yeah, we're just kind of swimming back a little bit, but Kathy, you're right. There is the Nemo that runs right through the middle of that dock, that's the dash line on the drawing right there. So if it brings it back even further than a foot, then you're looking at potentially, hockey issues with water depths.
And a foot's not gonna
Well,
get you out of the
but
setback.
reducing it from 8 feet to 6 feet doesn't do it either.
No,
You're just saying that's more palatable to you, but in either case, you're not getting out of the variance.
Well, it reduces the non-conformity.
it reduces the non.
Either one of them reduces.
No. If you reduce it from 8 to 6, that reduces the amount of the variance needed.
By square footage, is that what you mean? That's the.
Right, from the distance.
So if removing 8 to 6 does it, or removing the foot on the end does that, reduces it. Either way you reduce the square footage, it reduces the non-conformity.
Oh, right, there's always a variance.
Yeah. I'm sorry, that's my only point. Either way, they're still in the setback. And he's in the setback because of the angle on the property line. Which seems manufactured.
The only problem is that doesn't clear everything up. What I think I want to do, future sake, so we can look in the Georgetown and say, what the heck is this? Is eliminate, now that if there's 3 original plans or suggestions, let's eliminate 2 of them. And then we focus on the one and bring it to a yes or a no. Or ask the applicant, is that really what he wants to do? And does he have an alternative, such as changing property line, which then removes us from the equation entirely?
I don't mind that. I think that's a reasonable request. He needs to change the property line. He needs, I know that's expensive, it's not that expensive.
You and your family get along well?
You'll find out. It could be a lot harder than you think.
The whole scheme of things.
Neighbors will love each other, but there's not on the sides of the road before, so fireworks always been pretty good.
You know, I'm going to just from personal experience and from hearing so many stories and living through stuff like this, in the end, down the road, 30, 40 years, you'll be glad that you readjusted that property line. I'm serious. Just having that line cut through there, it's always going to be in the background. And, you know, I don't want to be the person is doom and gloom here, but I'm going to tell you, every little thing that you can rectify on this lake as far as property lines just helps for the future.
And you don't know that you have the support of the commission on the alternative. I mean, say that you stuck to your original plan, not changing, needing a variance, and you come to the vote and the vote doesn't carry it.
I mean, that's why I'm here today.
I understand.
And,
We just want to make it best for you, not easiest for us.
sure, so there is an email and a letter of support in your documentation from Rockwood LLC. If that's.
Which is the neighboring property owner.
Correct, yeah. It could be an option to change the property line, that's not why I'm here, because if I wanted to do that, I guess I would have done that a long time ago, right? Like a year ago. I guess I didn't think it would be that big of a deal, because I understand that your goal is to protect the lake, but the dock is in conformance aside from the setback, and if you look at the property line, I mean, it cuts right in front of the property line. So if you consider the being bisector, there is no issue. So it seems like, I guess from an outsider's perspective, I'm trying to understand why it's a difficult variance.
We're sympathetic to the situation, but unfortunately, our criteria is very rigid. We can't grant variances beyond what are absolutely necessary. And justification is very, very tough for our variances. So,
Having said all, can I hear voiceover?
I was just gonna suggest, oh, sorry.
You can go first.
Maybe it'd be helpful because we have a couple different options to kind of go through, option one, 6-foot wide pier, and you can have a straw pole, 8-foot wide pier, a straw pole. Might be able to figure out where everybody's kind of leaning.
I was just gonna mention, this doesn't really matter because it's not the same rules as Lake George Park Commission and your dock rules, but just from DEC's perspective, we've been doing a pretty hard push regionally to shy away from 8-foot wide docks and get 6-foot wide docks max, and I understand that's not rules on Lake George, but just an FYI, we are certainly doing that within the region on other water bodies to try to, when we have jurisdiction, we don't have jurisdiction on all docks, but on whole houses and things.
And statewide, 6 is max.
But APA has rules about 8 feet, and so we get contradictory rules and regs, and it becomes complicated, but when we do have jurisdiction, we've been regionally pushing pretty hard to get it down to a max. Putting my 2 cents out there.
That's interesting news. That's why we make you drag down. Well, I don't want to bring a vote on anything that's not clear cut to the commission. That's what we're voting on. So do we eliminate the other 2? I mean, are the 2 that we, that's my simple question. What 2 are we eliminating so that we have clear vote on tax, presumably what the applicant wants and prefers? He's indicated to us that he's not really interested in the property line adjustment, I believe. Would that be accurate?
Yeah, it's outlined in the
That's-
documentation.
that's your option too, right?
I think it's cost prohibitive to go that route for the request.
Okay, we can't debate that part, but so that's your second choice.
No. I don't think any of those options had.
No, I'm talking about the property line movement. That's a choice you really don't want to go through.
Yeah, that would not be ideal.
I don't want to speak for you. Yeah, okay. So we eliminate anything that requires the property line adjustment. What do we recommend?
So the 2 options on the table are a 6-foot wide pier and an 8-foot wide pier. Those are the only 2 on the table, is that what I'm hearing?
I think so.
It sounds like the third option of tucking it into coastal shore. Coastal shore might not be good due to water gap, so I think those would be the main
So
ones.
it's down to the 6%.
So we have,
Are you doing a straw poll or no?
I hate straw polls. But, yeah. What? Straw poll, Bill, what would you recommend?
Well, there's new information about DEC's recommendation on 6-foot versus 8-foot is very interesting to me, but I don't think that's our regulations.
No, it's not.
And so I would hate to, even though it's interesting to me and I'm thinking forward, maybe we should be thinking this way, maybe there's something there. But I wouldn't take that into account on this because it's in Lake George and we don't talk about that. And so I'm in favor of the 8-foot dock as is option number 2. And I don't accept anything else because they're all less than that.
Okay, Michelle, you have any thoughts on it?
The north dock is not outside of the setback, looking at the 6-foot dock. Is that correct?
No, it's outside, it's not in the setback.
Okay,
The setback, it's that corner.
It's compliant.
okay, it's compliant, so it's just the south dock that we're looking at.
Tom?
Well,
I'm unsure.
I will not support the 8-foot wide.
You
Will
will not support
I will
the
support the 6-foot wide if there's no lot line adjustment.
6 foot.
I agree with the 6 feet.
I mean, down to 6 feet, reflects DEC's rationale for looking, no, don't say it, because I did the same thing.
It's discussion, it's discussion.
There's a reason why we do that kind of across the state, even if we haven't used it yet. So I would prefer that.
As long as that is not the sole reason you're making your decision, because it's not binding. So my understanding would be that that is not the sole reason you're making the decision. Yes, correct, okay.
Okay, do we have a resolution for this project that we can adjust if necessary? We have a resolution,
Yes, we do have that.
and it's this resolution that someone's gonna read, what will it accomplish? And
It says it to
that's not what they have.
Would it be appropriate to maybe table
Yeah,
this?
this for next month.
And the applicant can go back and look and discuss with his family before we just make a vote on it,
It's always appropriate.
I don't
rather
know,
than getting a no.
to discuss with my family.
You know, there's three options, maybe to go back and to come with one option, so it's really clear on paper what we're voting on. Unless today we're voting on option number 2 and only option number 2.
Which one? That won't pass. Your option number 2 will not pass. That seems pretty obvious.
So let's vote on the next one.
Huh?
Then let's vote on the next one.
The 6 foot?
Yes.
option 1.
Okay. So we're gonna have a resolution regarding the project that limits the dock width to 6 feet.
That's, I got it here, you want to read it, Jeff?
Something at the time of our resolution doesn't speak to the 6%.
It doesn't, it speaks to nothing.
We'll make a resolution, but then say that the last words in the resolution always are with the following condition.
Right.
It's not here, it's reduced to 6 foot. Okay. That's for, is there a drawing with the 6 foot?
Yeah.
Yes.
The drawing.
Option 1.
Yeah.
Option 1, page 47.
Okay, let's hear a resolution.
Okay, resolution 2026-07, Steve Oliver. Whereas the applicant has applied for a variance to modify their dock inside the 20 setback area. Whereas the Lake George Park Commission has reviewed the application, supporting documents, comments received, and other information which appears in the record. Whereas the commission has made a determination pursuant to 6 NYS 645-6 and the State Environmental Quality Review Act. The project is a type 2 action, but does not require further review of potential impacts pursuant to this act. Whereas the action is a minor project pursuant to 6 NYS 645-5.3, and public notice has been published and distributed consistent with regulations. Whereas the applicant has requested a variance from 645.11
646.
or 646, their eyes signed. Every dock or wharf constructed shall have a minimum setback of 20 feet from the adjacent property line extended into the lake. On the same axis as the property line runs onshore or to east of the lake, or at a right angle to the mean high water mark, whichever results in the greatest setback. Whereas the applicant has demonstrated that strict conformance with the regulations will cause unnecessary hardship due to unique and peculiar circumstances which impose substantial financial, technical, safety burdens. And whereas the commission finds that there is no reasonable possibility that the applicant's property will bring a reasonable return following conformance with the regulations. And whereas the commission finds that the project will have no adverse impact on the health, safety, or welfare of the public, the environment, or the resources of the park, will not alter the essential character of the area in which it's proposed, will not lead to congestion in the park, and will not have an undue visual, cultural, or audible impact on the neighborhood or the park. Now therefore be it resolved, the Lake George Park Commission hereby approves, should we say option 1? The above application with conditions as set forth in option 1. Okay. And the approval is contingent on completion of the second public comment period and no substantive comments received.
Don't you think we should identify option 1?
Well,
Option 1 with the south tree reduced to 6 foot width.
Yes.
With the triangles inside.
Triangles.
You can also just attach option one,
As
that
seen
page,
on
as seen on
document
option one,
37.
attached here too.
We attach to this resolution.
And one other note is the applicant is actually 102 FPDN LLC.
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay, yes, you did.
Why
Okay,
do we have a second public comment period?
yeah, that was good.
It's public comment here, because the first one was done last year, and the second one just finished on the 17th. So, yes.
So
So we
this
don't
is the
need
second.
So there's
So
no
this is second
more
one,
comments.
Okay,
We worked, so does that sound like we got the right resolution? It's gonna make
Yeah,
sense?
I'll tell you tomorrow.
the resolution is the park commission approves the above application with the following modifications. That it is set as option one, as seen on the attached document.
Okay.
I think that'll work.
And then that's gonna be part of the resolution going forward, and will stay in the final as, this is a two-page resolution.
There's a motion made then,
And now second.
motion second. Any other discussion? And I'll give the commissioner the alternative. Would you like a roll call vote? Sure. Across the board. Sure. Roll call vote? Okay, Bill?
Aye.
Aye.
Yes, I.
Hi, my vote, 6 all.
And why would I not say the same thing? Carrie? I think we got there.
All right. Thank you.
It'll be a while before you see the labors of your labor, I guess. What do we got? Thank you very much for your time. Losing our group. Yeah. You know what?
Okay, we can pause, if we don't have a quorum.
Jason knows we don't have a two people leave to go to the bathroom at the same time. Gotta hold up, folks.
Talk amongst yourselves.
They left their coats on one side.
We're gonna talk about them.
Ken, did I miss this? Was Joe appointed commission executive director?
You missed it, but that wasn't what we said.
What did you say?
What the chairman said to everybody happily is that, last Thursday, in a phone call from the powers to be in Albany, we were advised that they had, acknowledged Joe's existence and were in full support of him, and they're passing it through their process down there, which they think will take a couple months minimum. My process was 12 minutes. I called everybody and said, Joe's gonna move. That's, yes. I still think that we have sold out.
Yes.
From the beginning.
But so you'll make a formal,
No,
take a formal step sometime in June.
you know, eventually there'll be a resolution by the park commission acknowledging his existence. And he's doing a wonderful job, on and off.
I will say two, three.
Don't put up the anymore. Bill? Are you here? Did you hear about the new rule we got? No two people take a bathroom break during the meeting. One at a time. No, during the meeting.
Yes, I can.
Raise your hand, then the chairman said you leave your tail.
You want me to, raise my hand?
I got the council on my side. All right. Enough for folks. Item 5 is another dock modification variance, this time in the town of Dresden. And resolution for the Timberbrook Lake George LLC. And Randy, you have something on that?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The current property has 516 feet of lakefront. It's located in Newton's Landing edge, 7 feet back. The current property is improved with 3 docks. The current dock under discussion is a boathouse that is in the 20-foot setback. They are proposing to remove it completely out of the 20-foot setback, but the variance now is for them to move it out beyond 40 feet from the mean low due to water depth issues. Boathouse is also going from a structure that is over 16 feet to being not received any comments on it from either neighbor on either side. And I believe Chris Gerard's here from Doc Doctors to fill in any holes I may have. Is there any questions?
Chris from Dog Doctors, also here with Trish and Neil Mitchell, the owners of Timberbrook. It's been a while. Dog Doctors tries not to be here for variances. I think whether we're hired by a residential property, a marina, or an HOA, you know, with our years of experience and our design and manufacturing capacity with being able to get creative, that's kind of what puts us here. We usually put our emphasis on looking at safety, looking at compliance, and looking at function. I have some, the owners bought the property back in August 2022. I had a pleasure of Dr. Moss prior to that and visiting the property to kind of look at trying to deal with the swim dock, as he calls it. And we pier off at, which is on the far south side of the property, and then we pier off at the boathouse to the far north side of the property. And I said, so what's your long-term plan of that? Because it's more work than what it's worth, because I don't really have a boat in it anymore because it's so shallow. So I had a lot of history with the property prior to the Mitchells. They contacted us. We've been working hand in hand, very hands-on owners with making sure we look at every option, exhaust every option, make sure what we do go forward with is a longevity thing, and be as compliant as we can, neighbor-friendly as we can. So basically looking at that, the existing E-shaped dock with a open-sided style, gable style roof is within the setback. It's probably, the outer portion is probably somewhere around 4 or 5 feet off actual property line. The inner is probably a couple feet off the property line. So well within the setback. Let's say you're roughly 295 square feet of dockage, and roughly 740 feet of boathouse is all within that setback. So the roof structure itself measures roughly 17 feet, 2 1/4 high, measured from the mean high water mark, so you're roughly 2 feet 1 inches higher than what we would be able to permit for today. So all in all, looking to maintain kind of the same look, the same structure, the same function in the E-shaped dock, open-sided, going to be with a flat roof with a rail on it. Going to move it out of the setback. I think moving that setback, and we're going to bring the elevation down. We're going to be 15 feet above, so the dock will be compliant to the 20-foot setback. It will be compliant to the elevation measured from the high water mark. I think the biggest thing is it's going to significantly improve the safety and function, not only for the Mitchells, but more or less their neighbors to the north. This is going to open up that property and allow just from swimming to navigation to be listed. If you visit the property, you've looked at it, this frontage kind of has 2 crowd points, and the swim dock, T-dock that's there now is kind of on a crowd point. Then the flow comes way in and gets really shallow and flat. There's a brook that comes off from runoff from up above the road that pushes out. And it kind of has a hump to it, and then it falls off. And then the boathouse is stuck where it is. If you look at the water depths, it's actually, I want to say, maybe a little deeper than if you just let it straight over. And then the neighbor actually dumps back in for this. So I think this is going to open up that quick. So I think it's a great for them and for the neighbor. To my understanding, they've received nothing but positive support from both neighbors with what they're doing with the property and the improvements. We're here basically on an offshore variance ask. We've mapped these water depths, we've swam this waterfront, and we just can't find water. The only way we can find water is to make water. Environmentally, looking at dredging and that type of stuff, just the impact, the finances connected to that just isn't something that we look at as being a feasible option, a viable option. So we're looking to basically have the offshore, I think it's roughly inclusive of the dock and the eve of the boathouse, I think we're roughly 15 feet beyond the water. Water depth wise, you'll see in the illustration how flat it is. We kind of use, I know traditionally speaking, when we're doing slip design, we're looking at 36 to 42 inches is kind of our target depth for a usable slip throughout the season. Whether that's in an HOA atmosphere, trying to get usable slips for how many are needed, or reconfigure a marina or a residential property, and that's kind of driven from either a 26-foot hacker, that's gonna be 3 feet of water of draft back into the propeller. Yes, that shaft comes up or it meets the hull, the rest of it's flat, right? But, so the new, even if you look at a traditional ski on tape, that might be 27 to 32 inches, depending on where that gear is. You know, you look at an IO of today, you know, 24, 26, or 28, they're all drafting either 32 to 36 draft down, 18 to 20 draft up. Rule of thumb, we usually figure something in the middle of that, so we get the proper level of water, pulling in the water, pulling the water, that type of stuff. So, important piece is just making sure that the boat can bring water into it for cooling, making sure the boat is able to navigate in that slip safely. Not make contact with the bottom, or not have it like now where the boat actually sits on the lake bottom. The owners spend probably the majority of their time at the lake when it's at its quietest, August, September, October. Unfortunately, that's when that water level has a tendency to drop below that 319.56. This year was a really interesting reminder of what it can do. Not that it is something that will be every year, hopefully, but it is reality that, you know, we were roughly 6.5 inches lower than that average 319.56 this year. So, you know, you're looking at maybe 10, 12 inches of water in the front half of the slip. You're looking at 16 to 18 inches of water in the back half of the slip. You know, by the time we get to Labor Day, by the time we get to Columbus Day, you know, looking at it, we are going to remove the crib foundation and add a fiberglass foundation. I think environmentally it's going to help things kind of flow, let the water hydraulics do what they want to do during the season. The brook's there. I don't think we're going to have any concerns with sediment buildup in the future because we're pulling that section of crib mentality, even section of crib out, which acts as a little bit of a dam when we have sediment washing in, and it kind of builds it up. So I don't foresee having with this distance out, conservatively, we don't gain a lot of water going out. We don't really lose a lot going back in, except the front slip. I don't foresee a sediment buildup issue in the future having any issues, especially as a pile lot that allows soils to kind of do their thing. So that's the one ask we are here for. So I think trying to do our best with that 20-foot setback, trying to do our best with that elevation thing. I think the sun deck, you know, basically if you look to the deck structure, the actual walking surface, you know, we're around 14 feet, plus you've got the rail. So I mean, we're coming down significantly, so making that cable rail that they're gonna put out there is gonna be very transparent. So I think just visually, it's gonna do a lot for the property next door, as well as safety. So.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I've seen you in a long time.
It's been like, you know.
Do we have, a listing yet? No one made the trip to Dresden?
We reviewed it at the office.
Yeah, we did a virtual.
This is why we want the drone?
Yeah. Well, it worked out because it was, again, another trek through the snow. You know, last year we went out in the snow and we actually went through like 40 or 50 feet of snow to look at one spot up in Bolton. So this year, tried to bring up that. It turned out the weather was bad on Friday anyway, so it would have been a messy trip. But yeah, we had safe folks out.
In the old days, we would have done it.
Ken, should I say that, for the record, that I live for places, properties north of this project, and my paddleboard pass there all the time. So, you know, I'm very well aware of what you're talking about. Been there many times.
So your hands-on experience then, right?
Yes, and it has been very shallow. Scary shallow.
Do the commissioners have any questions for the applicant? Or any comments for the commission?
Brief us on the project, right?
Other than we basically,
We discussed some alternative,
yeah, so I did, I mentioned, I did reach out to Chris, one of the alternatives was basically taking the dock and maybe angling it a little bit so you can kind of, either the boathouse and dock, and kind of reduce that depth, or I guess length.
the non-compliance.
Beyond the non-compliance, but, in my discussion, or Chris got back to me and basically said that as you turn that dock and you're basically bringing that left side closer to the shoreline, it does not actually change the water depth or keep that same water depth that they currently would get out of what the current
It
application.
looked like the bathymetric soundings, looked like it might have been slightly deeper, but you're saying no.
It actually, you talked about the hump.
So there is just because of that brook and that stone.
There's a vein there that blocks.
There's a vein that comes out and then it kind of falls off if you get out in front of where we're looking, so yeah, it's very fine. Your creative point of doing that is great, but we're gonna get into that.
If it worked, great, if it didn't, if it doesn't, it doesn't.
If we got in the setback, when Alan's tipped it over, we clear that vein on that issue, so.
The issue was brought up and
Yeah.
discussed.
No, and I appreciate it, thank you very much.
Okay. Shall we have a reading?
Swim platforms.
Okay, resolution 2026. Oops, okay. -08, applicant Timberbrook LLC, whereas the applicant has applied for a variance to modify their dock inside the current setback area, whereas the Lake George Park Commission has reviewed the application, supporting documents, comments received, and other information which appears in the record, whereas the commission has made a determination pursuant to 6 NYCRR 645-816 and the State Environmental Quality Review Act, that the project is a type 2 action and does not require further review of potential impacts pursuant to this act. Whereas the action is a minor project pursuant to 6 NYCRR 645-5.3, and public notice has been published and distributed consistent with the regulations. Whereas the applicant has requested a variance from 646-1.1 C2I, no dock or wharf may extend offshore for more than 40 feet beyond the mean low water mark, where the wharf intersects the mean low water mark. Whereas the applicant has demonstrated that strict conformance with the regulations will cause unnecessary hardship due to unique and peculiar circumstances which impose substantial financial, technical, or safety burdens. And whereas the commission finds that there is no reasonable possibility that the applicant's property will bring a reasonable return following conformance with the regulations. And whereas the commission finds that the project will have no adverse impact on health, safety, or welfare of the public, the environment, or the resources of the park, will not alter the essential character of the areas in which it is proposed, will not lead to congestion in the park, it will not have an undue visual, cultural, or audible impact on the neighborhood or the park. And therefore be it resolved of the Church Park Commission hereby approves the above application. Approval is contingent on completion of the second public comment period and no substantive comments received. That's it. That's it.
You making that a motion?
Yeah.
So moved.
So moved. Second?
Was that been all the way through?
Is there a line on there for?
That approval contingent part, just like the last one, that's unnecessary. That's fine. So it's just,
It goes on the 20.
rescinded.
Okay.
Approves as proposed.
I'll move it.
Second. Move second, as amended. All in favor? Aye.
Abstain.
Pardon me?
Abstain.
Abstain. So we have all in favor and one abstention. And it's carried. Thank you. Good luck. Shovel the snow off and start work.
I would just like to thank the commissioners for their continued time, commitment to protecting the resource. I'm going on my 20th year with doctors, and some of your faces have been here since I've been here. I think that some are new. Your time is not well recognized, and with the transition of some different executive directors and analysts, and I would like to just hope that Mr. Thruin does see the opportunity, and say your team is amazing between Randy, Joe, and the rest of the office. So I think you've got a great team, and I thank them for the time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We would have said yes, even though not.
And while we're here, I would just like to thank Randy for becoming so proficient with the drones. I can't get over what a great perspective we're now getting. For example, there was no way we'd be able to view all these projects from the water.
Kathy wasn't willing to climb a tree.
No, it's one of the best things that's happened. I just think it's great. And Randy's gotten so good at it.
That's why we got that.
Exactly.
Well, you know what? We don't have a law enforcement committee report because we didn't have a law enforcement committee meeting. So that brings us to item number 8, which is public comments. Is there anybody here from the public who hasn't been heard? Mr. Medetsky. Good morning.
Good morning. Thank you for the opportunity. Chris Savitsky with George Waterkeeper. I wanted to make the commission aware of a situation that happened recently up in the town of Putnam. The town of Putnam Town Board 2 weeks ago disbanded their planning board and retained their site plan review law. And the town board has now transferred all responsibilities from the planning board to the town board. So they will be reviewing site plans. This is concern on the waterkeeper's point for a couple of levels. So first of all, they disbanded an established review board that has been reviewing projects for 30 years. Worked a lot with the commission, knew a lot of the issues on the lake. And now the town board is not as familiar, does not have the training, and that's a concern. Secondly, unfortunately, a number of the projects that go through the town board actually are exempt from the George Park Commission jurisdiction due to the level of impervious cover proposed, so they fly under the radar. Fortunately, we've had the town Putnam Planning Board cover that and have required stormwater management for many of these projects. So it was a benefit for the lake, addressing projects that would not have received stormwater management, which we feel that threshold should drop. So my goals are twofold to come here. First of all, to make the commission aware of this and that this is going to be a gap, I feel, for lake protection. Secondly, to make the staff aware that there maybe should be a bit more guidance or attention paid up to things going on in the town of Putnam. Spoken with the supervisor, and I just feel that, they're not aware of a lot of the regulations, aware of a lot of the jurisdiction, and that important items that have been caught over the past 20+ years may not be caught going forward. So just wanted to advise the board on that. Thank you.
Thank you. We presume that you will be monitoring the issue on a regular basis.
Well, unfortunately, it's a second Thursday of the night, which falls on the Bolton zoning board, so we'll be moving around.
You get to it. We know that. Okay. There's no one else here from the public. Anybody from the private wants to speak? We haven't had the highlights. Mr. Mason.
I move we adjourn.
Do we have a second? Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Carried. We are adjourned. Thank you, everybody. Appreciate your time.
Actually,
That.